Okay, good afternoon. The time is 1:30 p.m. The date today is June 3rd, 2021. It's another beautiful day here in Paradise, so I'm happy to pleased to call to order the regularly scheduled June 2021 meeting of the City of West Palm Beach Zoning Board of Appeals. I'd like to ask our Board Secretary to please call the roll.
Christopher Hagan.
Here.
Christopher Kammerer.
Here.
Malika Barlow. Let the record reflect that Malika Barlow is not present. Michael Hyman. Michael Wood.
Here.
Alfred Fields.
Here.
Jonathan Burgess. Let the record reflect that Jonathan Burgess is not present.
Thank you very much. We do have a quorum. At this point, please everyone rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. The first order of business today is to approve the minutes from the April 1st, 2021 meeting. The meeting, the meeting minutes were distributed in the board packet. So first ask if there are any additions, corrections to those minutes. And if not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I move that minutes are approved as printed.
The motion's been made by Member Fields. Any other, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Kammerer. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved unanimously. To go ahead then and have a report from our zoning staff, Mr. Roach.
Good afternoon, everyone. For the record, John Roach, Principal Planner. First of all, welcome back. Happy to have you back, and feel like we did a pretty good job with the virtual meetings, able to conduct, the business that was needed at that time through the circumstances. So we appreciate all your patience, cooperation, and adapting with us as we navigated through that. So as I was indicating before the meeting started, we're in the process of setting up laptops for each board member for the future meetings. So we'll continue to distribute your packet and all the supplemental materials electronically as we have through the last year and a half. But at least when you come to the meeting, you'll have a laptop in front of you that will have the packet there, your motion pages, the plans and so forth that were sent in advance and things like that. So you'll be able to access those materials as the meeting is happening. So again, we should have those set up for the next meeting. We appreciate you, again, with that adaptation of moving away from the printed copies and things like that. We feel like it's really working, and it's actually saving a lot of resources. So again, thank you. One housekeeping matter is the second item on your agenda. We had indicated that the applicant is requesting a continuance. We're actually going to pull that item off the agenda. No mailers or anything were sent out as part of that, so we don't need to preserve any form of the advertising. So we're just going to pull that until the applicant is ready to move forward with it, at which point we will send out those mailers, advertise, and so forth, and put it back on the agenda. So there's no action that's needed from the board with regards to that. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you, John. That moves to remarks by the chairperson. So first, I'd like to just go over the procedures for the cases that will be heard at today's meeting. I'd like to just state for the record that all matters before the ZBA are quasi-judicial in nature. Therefore, anyone wishing to speak, including members of the public who wish to offer public comment, will need to be sworn in. First, the applicant then will make their presentation and answer any questions from the board. The applicant's presentation will then be followed by city staff, who will then provide their own presentation and a recommendation to the board, and then they will be available to answer any questions. Following that, members of the public will then be given an opportunity to provide comment, with each person receiving up to 3 minutes to do so. City staff will also insert into any public comment received in advance of today's meeting, such as emails, voicemails, other forms of communication, into the record. Then the applicant will have the opportunity for any rebuttal if needed. And then the floor will be closed, and our board will go into executive session for a decision, a discussion, a motion, and then a vote. And then just as a matter of procedure, the requirement from our board is that 4 votes in favor are required for approval. In addition, just a couple comments I'd like to briefly make. First of all, I would like to say it is great to see everyone in person. I think we have, it's been well over a year since we've been able to gather in person, and it is really nice to be in here together. For everyone here, the mask ordinance still is in effect in City Hall. So if you are coming up to the podium, you do have, there are these dividers in place both up here and at the podium. So you do, if you would prefer when you're at the microphone, you may remove your mask. It may help with clarity. It's up to you. You may also keep it on if you'd like to. But then once you're done speaking, it'll need to be placed back on. Same goes for the members here on the dais. If you as you're speaking, you may take off your mask if you'd like, but then we'll need to remove it once, or put it back on once done speaking. The other thing that I'd like to just also mention is a big thank you to staff, and especially to John and to Hope for keeping us running while we were all remote and virtual. I think you guys both went above and beyond in helping to run the meeting smoothly. I know John had to, every time a case came up, had to bring the people into the virtual meeting room, and then the next case, then bring those people into the virtual meeting room. So I know a lot of pivoting and becoming adept with that technology was necessary, but you ran it seamlessly, and I think that was great. And Hope, thank you so much for helping to get materials distributed to us, and in a virtual environment, and making sure that we all ran smoothly. And thank you very much for that. I think both did a tremendous job in helping to keep us moving during the pandemic. So I think that's it for me. So we'll move on to the next item in the agenda. And that is the declaration of ex parte communication. So I'll just start on my left with Board Member Hyman. Any ex parte communication?
Thank you, Mr. Is my mic on? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did have an ex parte communication approximately 2 months ago with a member of the West Palm Beach Golf Community Trust. Prior to any knowledge of a item being on the agenda before us, and in no way discussing anything that would have pertained to that. So it was a chance meeting. Hello, congratulations on working with the trust, or with the golf course, and that was all. So I will be participating in the conversation.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Board Member Kammerer?
No ex parte communications.
Okay. Board Member Wood?
No ex parte communications.
And Board Member Fields?
No ex parte communications.
Okay. And for my disclosure, I will note that on June 2nd, I had a telephone conversation with the agent for the applicant, Ms. Brinkman from Urban Design Studios. The nature of the conversation was informational, provided information that was similar to the background provided in our board packet. I will still be able to make a decision at today's hearing based on the competent and substantial evidence contained in the staff report, in the supplemental materials, and in the testimony at today's hearing. So that concludes the ex parte communication. So we'll move into the public hearing portion. And first, we'll start off with the swearing in of the speakers.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Thank you very much. There are no continued cases, so we move on to the first and only item on our agenda today, which is Zoning Board of Appeals case number 3394. I'll ask our board secretary to read that item into the record, please.
A request by Joni Brinkman of Urban Design Studio on behalf of West Palm Golf Community Trust Incorporated for variances from Section 94-302C1 and Section 94-204.5 of the City's Zoning and Land Development Regulations, specifically relating to the height of fencing within the setback, as well as the height of poles, netting, and lights associated with the proposed driving range. The plus or minus 174.7 acre site is located at 7001 Parker Avenue, south of Maddox Street, west of Georgia Avenue, within Commission District Number 5. Commissioner Christina Lambert.
Thank you. Before we get into staff presentation, I did also, just for housekeeping, excuse me, want to mention that because we have the 5 members up here, Board Member Fields, who's our first alternate, will be voting on this item as a voting member today. So that's it. So I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, board members. For the record, Joni Brinkman with Urban Design Studio on behalf of the applicant. And as mentioned, this is the West Palm Beach Golf Course redevelopment that's being sponsored by the South Florida PGA and the Trust. The West Palm Beach Golf Community Trust, Inc. was incorporated as a 5013C and has been granted a lease, so it has been approved by the City Commission. And we're here before you today to ask for variances for the height of the fencing within the front setback, the height of the driving range poles and netting, which are along the north property line on Maddox Street, and the height of lights associated with the proposed driving range and a practice green, which are on the east side of the driving range. Specifically, in regards to each variance, the first variance is actually for a fence. Since we are now processing an administrative site plan through the city's zoning division, the code now requires us to designate Maddox Street as the front, so we're not allowed a fence higher than 4 feet. We're asking for an additional 2 feet in height on that fence, which is consistent with the existing fence that's on the site today. The second variance is actually for the pole netting and height on Maddox Street frontage as well. I know it says building height, but that's considered a building because it's a structure over 6 feet in height. We are requesting 75 feet at the maximum height, which is a maximum variance of 40 feet. And the final variance is for the light pole heights, the majority of which on the east side of the driving range are 80 feet. There's one smaller one at 50. So our maximum variance in that request will be a waiver of 45 feet. Just to make sure everyone understands where we're located, we're actually east of I-95 and south of Forest Hill Boulevard. Our frontage is on both Maddox Street, which is to the north, and Georgia Avenue to the east. You see Mary Brandenburg Park there, which is not included in the lease area that the trust will be utilizing, as well as Forest Hill High School to the northwest. Again, the lease has already been approved by the City Commission and defined all the regulations and terms associated with the use of the course by the South Florida PGA and the Trust. The South Florida PGA is led by the PGA of America. The term lease is 50 years, and there were certain items that were already defined in the lease, which is there will be lighting allowed on the driving range and the practice green, but it must be extinguished no later than 10 p.m. But as your staff indicated in your staff report, that's really not part of our request today, but I wanted everybody to be aware of it. South Florida PGA is very excited, I think, as the city is as well. Their focus is going to be on growing the game of golf by helping golfers of all levels and ages in their golf journey, including all different levels of players and people actually with disabilities, children. The headquarters right now is in Palm Beach Gardens, and Seth Waugh is the current director and CEO. Being proposed is the redevelopment of the 18-hole golf course. It's being redesigned by world-famous architect Gil Hans. The practice facility and a 9-hole par 3 golf course will be south of the driving range. There's a 12,500 square foot clubhouse, approximate 10,000 square foot offices for the PGA themselves, 2,800 square foot performance center where you would have your hitting bays and your computerized lessons, that type of activity, as well as the golf maintenance facility, which is proposed to be located in the same general location as today. So this is the overall site plan. It shows that from an access point, there will no longer be access to Maddox Street into the golf course facility. Instead, all access will be off of Georgia Avenue for the public, which is where the main facilities are located, south of Mary Brandon Park. And then in the northwest area, there's a little amount of land area that's not included in our lease that'll be utilized by the school district for parking. And you'll see at the south end, that is where the existing maintenance facility is, and we'll be replacing it with new updated building and facilities. In regards to our request, it all focuses around the driving range, which is in its historical location, always been up there by Maddox Street. And to get into each variance, this is the existing chain link fence along Maddox. It's not the most attractive. All we're doing really is asking to replace it with the same size fence. What we're proposing is a aluminum fence, which is much more aesthetically attractive, and we hope will improve the streetscape along Maddox in that area. And again, that's only a 2 foot above code, but consistent with what's there today. The pole height and net variance, that is again along the north side of the driving range. The maximum variance we're asking for is where the poles and the netting will be 75 feet in height. It actually from the east end starts at 30 and then gradually goes up to 50 and then to 75, where most golfers today, obviously since 1947, there's been a lot of technology improvements in the game of golf. So that is where it's determined that the most highest loft of the balls would be. So we need the netting there to protect, to keep the balls on the course and also protect any traveling or pedestrians in Maddox. And then it again decreases as you go west to 50 feet. This shows you just a little bit of the existing conditions along Maddox Street. There are existing trees there along, some in the right-of-way, some maybe on our property. We've created this graphic to show you the netting, and I know there's been some comments about the height of the netting. We are only proposing 75 feet. This will be nothing at all like Drive Shack, which is 160 feet. Very subdued in scale compared to what people may think in their mind. This shows the 50-foot increase to the 75 at the center of the netting, where the balls are the highest. Along this frontage on Maddox, what we're proposing is there's going to be a meandering golf path that will lead not only to the driving range, but then to the west to the Performance Center. And then we are also increasing the amount of landscape in that area to give a better visual and streetscape effect along Maddox. The protective netting that we're proposing here is proposed to be set back 45 feet from the right-of-way line. This gives you a little bit better cross-section of that, because you can see the homes across the street on Maddox, the sidewalk. There is actually on-street parking on Maddox, the 2 travel lanes, and then our property line then begins with a shrub with the fence, the 6-foot fence, trees to meet FP&L right tree, right place requirements. There is obviously FP&L lines there, which has resulted in the condition of the existing mahogany trees over time. Then the meandering golf path, and then higher plant materials such as roll palms, sable palms, mixed in with live oak canopy trees to provide some additional screening from the netting. The exact light pole variances we're asking for, when we initially made this application, we were asking for the 5 poles at the east end of the driving range, which is where the golfers will be driving, to be allowed to be 80 foot in height. As of today, we're still getting input and refinement on our photometrics. We may end up not proposing to have that northernmost light pole. We want to make sure we have to be in compliance with all the city's guidelines on photometrics and light spillover. So it's most likely there will only be 4. And then there's the 50-foot pole at the practice range, which is close to Mary Brandon Park, which is also included in the request. Did want to point out that the park actually has active recreational activities at that site, including baseball. The existing outfield light poles in this area are already 95 feet, so the poles we're proposing are actually somewhat significantly less than that, should not create any additional impact to the neighborhood. Per your staff report, your professional staff has looked at our request. They agree that we meet all the standards for the variance request specific in your code. And that actually completes my presentation. We are available for questions Our site planner and landscape architect, Rob Dinsmore, is here from UDS, and Tom Frankel from the Trust is also here.
Great. Thank you very much, Ms. Brinkman. So I will turn it over to the board for any questions. I'll start with Vice Chair Kammerer. Any questions for the applicant, any member of the applicant's team today?
Sure, the only questions I have is there been any input from the neighborhood, especially any of the people who live along, I forget, what is the street that runs along the northern boundary?
Maddox?
Attic.
Actually, I reached out to the commissioner's office to get some names of people. We have been dealing with the Dreher Park group. They are not opposing any of our requests. I don't think they had time to get a formal letter out, but they are not objecting. I've also been in correspondence with a lady who lives directly across the street. She had indicated to me she'd went out and knocked on doors and kind of got some consensus from the neighbors. Most of their concerns were if the mahogany trees can be saved. They would like the mahogany trees to be saved. We have no right to take out any trees that are in the right-of-way, so our surveyor at this time is locating that. And the trees that are on our site, we have agreed we will maintain them as long as there is no hazard associated with it. So if we feel like the tree has been damaged to the point where it could be a hazard, we would actually probably retain an arborist to come out and give us an opinion. But if they're all healthy and no hazard to the public, we will keep all those trees.
Have any of the members of the public expressed any concerns to you with regards to the height of the fence?
Not the height of the fence necessarily, no. The lighting, and I explained it was Ms. Smith, I said that the city commission has already approved the lighting on the field and the limitations associated with that via ordinance. So that decision's already been made. But it was really just the landscape, the trees. That was all the input she gave me.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll next go to Board Member Wood. Any questions of the applicant or the applicant's team?
No questions.
Okay. Board Member Fields?
No questions.
Okay. Go back to Board Member Hyman.
No questions. Chris covered everything I had.
Okay. And I have no questions. So we'll turn it over to the staff presentation then.
Good afternoon again. For the record, John Roach, Principal Planner. Ms. Brinkman was very thorough in her presentation, so I'm not going to go through everything. The one thing I do just wanted to touch on is, I'm not sure if she mentioned it or not. I think you saw them in some of your pictures there, but generally speaking, all the improvements that the trust is proposing as part of this redevelopment are in their general location as where they are today and have been for decades. So they're not really reconfiguring the course at all. The clubhouse itself is relocating, but in terms of the layout, the area of the championship courts, the driving range, the maintenance facility, all of those are staying within their general location of where they are. And as part of that existing driving range, there has been poles and netting there for a number of years. The current height of that is only 30 to 35 feet. However, the setback of that is actually substantially less than what the applicant is proposing. I'll commend the applicant. They've really worked with staff to improve the frontage that they are proposing along Maddox Street. From their original design, the netting was a lot closer. The landscaping was significantly less. The fence was not going to be upgraded and so forth. So through the iterations that have happened, a lot of attention has been put into that frontage based upon its location, proximity to an existing single-family neighborhood, and so forth. So I'll commend them upon that. Again, there is existing netting and poles that's substantially closer. They're going to pull that back, albeit it will be higher, up to the 75-foot max. As Ms. Brinkman indicated, that's showing a change in times and technology and people's abilities and so forth when it comes to the game of golf. So it's imperative that we maintain the safety factor with the adjacent right-of-way neighborhood and so forth. So that's the reason for the request there. The only other thing I'll do is put on the record that, as indicated in staff's report, that we are recommending approval of the application based upon compliance with the standards. We don't have any conditions based upon the proposed design. I know we normally do a video, however, I actually felt it would be better to do a street view a little bit to show you kind of the context. which the applicant's proposing these improvements. So what this is looking south on Parker Avenue towards the roundabout that's there today. Behind these trees is the existing driving range. You can see substantial amount of landscaping, but it's kind of overgrown and, you know, not necessarily been maintained to its highest level. You can also see there the existing chain link fence that would be removed. So all of this will be cleaned out and improved to provide a nice appearance. You can see as you continue down Maddox Street, you can see the power poles that Ms. Brinkman was referring to. That's kind of limiting the landscaping that can go immediately adjacent to the right-of-way. So they're providing a substantial amount on their property in exchange for that. Here you can see the existing poles and netting probably at their closest point to the property line. That's all going to be moved back. The new poles will be 45 feet back, again, albeit taller. The existing chain link fence that would be removed and replaced. I believe this section is only 4 feet, but a majority of it, as you extend down Maddox Street, is an existing 6-foot high fence. So again, you can see the the power lines. These are the existing trees that we are trying to determine their exact location as to whose responsibility these are. Say the applicant surveyor is out there doing that now, and then we will determine the future of those. As you can see, because of the power lines, there's been some substantial, what do I want to call them? Not even hat racking, just trimming not according to desirable techniques. So. So we'll determine the future of those based upon, again, safety factors, location of them, and things like that. So as you continue down Maddox Street, you know, the existing driving range, again, that's all there. You will get closer to Mary Brandon Park, where the existing light poles are that Ms. Brinkman referred to. The applicant is not exceeding the height of the existing light poles that are at Mary Brandon. They are staying below that. So they're not completely inconsistent with anything that's already in the immediate vicinity. So again, this is all going to be enhanced and improved along Maddox Street. I think it's going to provide a substantial improvement from what's there and has been there for a number of time, and we're really looking forward to that. So that concludes staff's presentation. We're happy to answer any questions.
Got to get used to being here in person, turning my microphone back on and off.
It's your mute, unmute button.
Right, exactly. Think about it in terms we're now familiar with.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. So we'll turn over to questions. I'll start on my right with Board Member Wood. Any questions of staff?
No questions.
Okay. Board Member Fields?
No questions.
Okay. Board Member Hyman?
Yes, sir.
And Vice Chair Kammerer?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. I have no questions of staff either. So thank you, John. We'll go ahead and I'll open the public hearing. So anyone who's here to speak on this matter, please come up to the podium. Okay. And did we receive any email or voicemail communication in advance of the hearing?
No, for the record, we had a deadline within the flyer and so forth of 9 a.m. today. However, staff did not receive any communication other than the communication that Ms. Brinkman referred to, you know, in terms of general conversation with regards to the tree and so forth, but no formal submittal of public comment.
Okay, thank you. So I will close the public hearing. And with that, we'll just move to the executive session here at the board. So I will start with Board Member Fields. Any comments?
No comments.
Okay. Board Member Hyman?
No comment other than to say that I'm delighted that the city and the trust are moving forward with this. I happen to have personal knowledge about the quality of the trust team based on other golf course facilities that they've built over the years, and I've never seen them not deliver more than they needed to than just what's required. So I'm very happy to support this petition. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Vice Chair Kammerer, board discussion?
No comments.
Okay. And then Board Member Wood?
No comments.
Okay. I have no comments to add as well. So at this point, if we're through discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I will move that we grant the variance. Want me to read through the entire granting?
Yes, please.
I move that the Zoning Board of Appeals grant ZBA case number 3394 a request by Joni Brinkman of Urban Design Studio on behalf of West Palm Golf Community Trust for variances from Section 94-302C1 and Section 94-204.5 of the city's zoning and land development regulations, specifically relating to the height of fencing within the setback, as well as the height of poles, netting, and lights associated with the proposed driving range. The motion is based upon the testimony presented, along with the application submitted and staff report, which constitute competent, substantial evidence, and that the board hereby make findings of fact that each of the criteria in Article 2, Section 94-38D6 of the City of West Palm Beach zoning and land development regulations have been met.
Okay, the motion has been made by Vice Chair Kammerer. Is there a second?
Second the motion.
Okay, seconded by Board Member Fields. I'll have the secretary please call the roll.
Christopher Hagan,
Yes.
Christopher Kammerer,
Yes.
Michael Hyman,
Yes.
Michael Wood,
Yes.
Alfred Fields.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Okay. Thank you all very much and good luck. Okay, as staff mentioned, item 2 was not advertised, so there's that automatically is not on the agenda. No action needs to be taken on that at today's meeting. So move to administrative appeals, of which there are none. So we'll move on to unfinished business. There is none. New business, none. And then other business. I did want to mention the item 2 that had originally been on our agenda. We are expecting that potentially could be on the July 1st meeting. I know I personally am going to be out of town. I did want to poll quickly just to see if we were aware of whether or not we'd have a quorum. And I know 2 members are absent today, so we may not know whether or not we'll have a quorum. But is there anyone else who knows that they will not be here for the July 1st meeting?
I will not be here for July.
Okay. So it does, and we can have a meeting with 4 members, but we'll have to probably follow up with members Barlow and Jonathan and Burgess, and find out. So we know at least 2 will not be here.
Right, okay, sounds good. We will figure out their availability, account for the 2 of you who will not be able to be here. If for some reason we are not able to get a quorum, is there the willingness to entertain an alternative date? Or are you looking just to continue it until August?
And I know it does sometimes produce sort of an undue burden on an applicant since we only meet once a month. So I'd be fine with moving the date to a special date. Just have a special meeting date in July if there is a date that works for everyone here. Unfortunately, I'm out. It's all the way, from the 1st through the following week. So I'm coming back into town on the 11th, that Sunday. So I'll be available from the 12th on if we had a special meeting. But I'm not sure what that means for others. And I don't know if it's best to check with the 2 board members that aren't here first to see if we need to
Yeah, I think first we'll figure out, if we're able to get a quorum, based upon the existing date. If for some reason we will provide some alternative dates and see if we can't get a quorum on an alternative date.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Hyman?
I can tell you that I won't be here for the entire month. I'm available if we can do a meeting by phone or Zoom.
Yeah, unfortunately, as much as I would like for that to be an option, technology-wise, we don't have that capability right now in terms of the commission chambers. When you start incorporating the Zoom meeting into the chambers itself as it's currently laid out and set up in terms of equipment, it creates audio feedback, and we can't thereby have that option. So until then, we're kind of in person, and we'll deal with quorums and so forth like we have before.
We'll have to have a conversation offline then. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in discussion, or everybody good? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved by Board Member Hyman, seconded by Vice Chair Kammerer. The meeting's adjourned.